Did you know that you're in the same room as the only owner of 3 marijuana dispensaries in Pennsylvania? Yeah. Welcome to an evening with Chris Visco, the queen of cannabis. I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Rob McKenzie. I'm the chairperson of the Department of Communication. We offer 2 degrees here at ESU. We offer a Bachelor of Arts degree. We also offer a Master of Arts degree. And we combine those 2 degrees. You can do a 4+1. You can do an accelerated program where you can do that master's degree in just 1 year by taking master's degree courses within the undergraduate degree. And we're sponsoring this event tonight. We are the Department of Communication because this is what we do. We talk about how issues like tonight's issue in marijuana, how those issues exhibit transformative ideologies or belief systems, the way that we change our thinking about the world. Belief systems that sneak up on us until we study them, and that is exactly what has happened to marijuana, looking at words as signs and symbols, words like pot, looking at words like marijuana, and the context in which those are appropriate to use. That's what we do in our discipline in the Department of Communication. We are sponsoring this event. We are doing that with money that has been allocated from the provost at East Stroudsburg University. Provost Joe Bruno has allocated money for departments to be able to apply to bring in guest speakers, and that's what we've chosen to do tonight with the Queen of Cannabis with our money. Also, this event tonight is sponsored by WESS Radio. WESS Radio. Las Vegas. Tonight, we're calling them Team Cannabis. They will be circulating throughout the audience later in the program because we will have a question and answer session. It's all part of what we do in a university setting when we try to spark a dialogue. They will be circulating later on with index cards to ask the questions. Thank you very much, WESS staff. And on the end, we have the station manager who's holding up the MTV Woody Award. The MTV Woody Award. That's the award given out to the, quote, best college radio station in the whole country. WESS won that award. Vince Gervaisi, thank you for holding that award. I also want to give a big nod to our president, President Marcia Welsh, who is in this audience tonight. Herself an entrepreneur, I tell you, you don't become a university president as a female all that easy as well. We will certainly hear Chris tell her story of what it's like to become who she is as a female. But the president was enthusiastic about this event, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to ask for this kind of discussion to take place and have her endorse it. And so for the rest of the night, we're going to be introducing Chris Visco, but before we get to that, one final thing, I would like to tell you my own story, or at least one of my stories for why I'm here tonight. My father died of prostate cancer, and in his 14th year, he was lucky enough to live for 15 years with prostate cancer. He had moved back to his native United Kingdom. He had moved back to Britain. It had been about 6 months since I was able to see him because I was a professor and I was teaching. I finally got to go to see him at Christmas time, and he was so emaciated, I couldn't stand to look at him almost. He was about 85 pounds, and he was in bed. He was not eating for several months. My mom was the sole caretaker. Having been myself a student of marijuana and hashish since I was 16 years old, I, however, had a plan how to spring into action. I went to the nearest flea market. I found a paraphernalia salesperson. I begged them, "Can you please find some hash for my dad?" I got some. A guy came to me. He sold me some hash. I brought it. I put it next to my dad's bedside table. He had no experience with that whatsoever. He was a World War II child. He sat there for 3 days in a row, unable to get out of bed, looking at that hash, staring at it. Finally, on the 4th day, I came downstairs, and he looked at me all smiling. He said, "I've taken my hash." And then I thought, uh-oh, now what's going to happen? Is he going to get paranoid? I walked around a little bit and I passed by him and he said, "Hey, son," he said, "is there any more of that strawberry ice cream in the fridge?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I'll get you some strawberry ice cream." I got him the ice cream. He ate the whole bowl. About another 20 minutes, he was staring at the curtains, which was this rose pattern. And I said, "Dad, what's going on?" He said, "Does anybody else see Beauty and the Beast in the rose pattern of those curtains?" I looked and I said, "Yeah, I see Beauty and the Beast." And that bastard, I could never not see Beauty and the Beast after that moment. Those were the last happy moments I remember from my dad. Did it extend his life, that hash? I don't know, but it certainly made him happier. Here to speak about these issues and more, and for you to join in the discussion with tonight, pro, con, or whatever, on the discussion of cannabis, is tonight's speaker, Chris Visco, the Queen of Cannabis.
Do I have to stand in one spot? Yeah. I'm Italian, I move around a lot. Okay, definitely not that late. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I've been here for a couple hours. I already have a big inflated ego and head right now. What's going on? I'm just teasing you. I am Chris Visco. I am the owner of Terravida Holistic Centers. We operate 3 dispensaries in Abington, Montgomery County, Sellersville, Bucks County, sorry, I'm trying to get out of that light, and Malvern, Chester County. We are the only women-owned and operated medical marijuana organization in the state of Pennsylvania, and one of few in the entire country. My business partner, Adina, and I, when we decided to go into this, we had to find people with money. We went around to try to raise money, and everybody was like, "You girls are really cute. That's adorable that you want to do this." Every door kept closing. Nobody believed in us. So I'm going to try to combine cannabis and also women in business. What I will tell you is perseverance is everything. And when you leave this university, people are going to try to knock you down. And it's how quick you get back up that's going to determine your success or failure. As a woman, you're going to get knocked down a lot. Because regardless of what we believe today, it's still a man's world. I am the only woman in the state, one of the few in the country, and the women in cannabis are not actually owners. This is an industry right now where if you're a diverse individual or you're a female individual or a veteran, the sky is the limit for where you can go. But 9 times out of 10, that's still going to be somewhere in the middle of the road. Ownership takes a long time. The advantage to anyone who's interested in going into the cannabis space that is a minority or is a woman is that there are so few in the industry that they're coveted. Because on every application in the country, they need you. Diversity is generally 10% of the total score. In Pennsylvania, everybody had women and everybody had minorities, and I'm in this business and I'm telling you, I don't see anyone of color or any females anywhere around. So the opportunity is definitely there, but it is about perseverance. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I've been working since I was 12 years old. Fortunately, I have an internal ambition, and I also didn't let people knock me down too much, but when I did, I got back up. So I worked my way through, the food chain, from being in retail. I went to college, studied psychology, decided I was bored and that was not the place for me at the time. Married my husband, we started buying some houses. I kind of got into retail. And once I got into retail and I realized that if I run this like my own business, I'm gonna be successful. And I started working for a company called Boscov's Department Stores. Oh, that's right, I'm still in Pennsylvania. I think most of you know what Boscov's is. Albert Boscov started that business. He could have sold it 100 times. But what he believed in was communities. He believed in giving back to the community, being part of the community, and he was filthy rich. He didn't need to sell out, but anybody else would. And what he created at Boscov's was an entrepreneurial environment where you were in charge of your own destiny. You may not make a lot of money, but the more profit you made for the business was money in your pocket. And that's very different than what a lot of people do. People make commission and things like that, but when you're looking at every aspect of profitability, you start to realize, because you're all gonna go out and you're gonna get jobs, you're gonna go in a career, there's a global idea of what goes on, but until you see dollars and cents and what it really means, like when you go into a Boscov's department store or Macy's or anywhere else you shop, you look at it and you say, oh, $20, I bet you they only paid $5 for it. But the reality of the situation is the profit margin is 2% at the end of the day, what gets put in the bank. But you don't know that until you're invested in it. So what I've tried to create in my world now is the Albert Boscov method of investing in people, investing in communities, giving back to the community, bringing in people, paying them well, developing them, and mentoring them. So what I often tell a lot of my staff is that, again, you need to persevere, but it's not always going to be about you. So we go out, we want to get a career, we want to make money, we want to have a family, we want to have a nice car, we want to have a big house. You need to take a step back first and realize that whatever you do, you need a team. I'm a mom, so we always say it takes a village. It does take a village. I'm in the paper all the time. I'm up here talking. I'm the face of the company. I hired smarter people than me. They got me where I am, so I invest in them. I have 100 employees. The cannabis industry has notorious turnover. My turnover in 1 year, 0. I invest in them. I pay them well. I give them great benefits. I bring in lunch and feed them. We break bread together, which is also a business, a piece of advice I'd always give you, is that all business is about relationship. And when you have a meal with someone, you create a relationship on a personal level. It's very different than sitting across a boardroom table. So I would always tell you, when you get into business, whether you're employed by somebody or you start your own business, have a meal with the people that you're going to be doing business with. So I throw big parties for them. I take good care of them. I love them. And I mentor them. And one of the problems in business today is that people don't support each other. And sadly, it's usually women not supporting women. So if I give you a piece of advice in your later careers, when you hire someone that wants your job. We get caught up in a trap of worrying about the other person being a threat. Like, I want to be the best employee. I want to do the best job. You're always going to be better together. And I've worked in so many businesses where women feel threatened by another woman and they don't build them up. So whether you're male or female, but especially if you're female, just know you need to build each other up, build a team. I have a manager who is willing to hire 2 people under him that would make more money than him because he knew that it ultimately was going to lead to his success. And we don't have enough of that in the world. So Terravida is successful, yeah, because I was able to put it together. My business partner and I were able to go out and raise money. But we are the #1 in the state because we've invested in our people, and our people love their jobs. My staff will run around. We take care of 200, 300 patients a day, and all of a sudden they say, it's 6 o'clock. I had to start feeding them because they wouldn't eat. So that's the kind of environment, A, you want to work for, and B, you want to employ when you move on in business. So essentially my background, retail, marketing, political strategy. I've gone through a lot of careers. Most people who graduate college do not end up in the degree that they're in. I was a psychology major and ended up in retail. So I have a son in college and a daughter going to college. My son has no idea what he wants to do. But your path can take you in a lot of different places. And that's where I didn't roll into, this isn't what I want to, just learn from every experience, learn from every conversation you have could be a potential job interview. Every person you meet could be a potential contact in your life. That's kind of just how I've built my business and how I've succeeded from the ground up. And the other thing I would love to say that is so important is no matter how big you get, always stay humble. You're never bigger than anybody else, and none of us can do anything alone, and that's so important. And even for me, I walk into rooms like the President of the United States, people cheer at him. You've got to just remember where you come from, because you can get over that cliff of ego, and you just always want to reel yourself in and realize that you're not bigger than anything, and we're all replaceable. I'm the CEO, I'm the owner, I still have investors, and they could throw me out of my butt tomorrow if I don't stay humble and do what I'm doing right now. Just really quick, because I know we're going to do questions. The medical marijuana program in the state of Pennsylvania was written into law in April of 2016 by Governor Wolf. The first licenses were given out in the summer of 2017, and we opened our first dispensary in February of 2018. The state currently has about 140,000 registered patients and about 88,000 with medical marijuana cards. Of those patients, the average age of the patient, does anybody have any idea how old a patient is? I'd rather ask you. 65? My average patient's 60 years old. I have an 18-month-old patient and a 97-year-old patient, but when you walk into my dispensary, you wouldn't imagine what it looks like. I am tripping over walkers and canes and wheelchairs and crutches. It's a whole mess. We're very busy, so there's a lot of people all the time. But my patient looks more like me than they do like most of you. And I think that's the problem with the stigma of people thinking that medical marijuana facilities are going to have a bunch of stoners lining up and crime and all those things, and that's not what it is. And quite frankly, even when we go adult use, that's not what it's going to be. So most of what I do is go around and educate the public on what marijuana really is. Could we use it to sit around and get stoned? Absolutely. Do many people? Absolutely. But the medical properties of this plant are almost miraculous. You know, I went into this as a business opportunity. I cry every day. Every day I cry. So for those of you who are advocates for marijuana just because, you know, you think it's a natural plant, which I hope most of you do, or that, you know, it doesn't cause any harm and no one dies of it, the real magic in this plant is that it is truly medicinal. I have about 35 patients that were stage 4 cancer, given months to live when they enter my facility. Some of them, 6 to 8 weeks later, cancer-free. Cancer-free. The senator who co-authored this bill did so because he was dying and didn't want any more treatment and went over state lines and illegally purchased marijuana. He was given a death sentence. 4 years later, he's still with us. So it is amazing. I have little kids with autism. An 8-year-old was breaking windows, smashing chairs, wouldn't talk to kids, broke her father's nose. The parents came in sobbing that they were praying this would work. They gave her 10 times the dosage we told them to, so they were freaking out that they had hurt their children, their daughter. The next day at noon, the teacher called them and said, "What are you doing?" She sat in her chair in school all day. She talked to other kids. She paid attention. This was a child that almost needed to be strapped down in class. THC calmed her down. It gave her system what she needed. Epilepsy. We have people that'll have a seizure in the dispensary. We know if we jam a vape pen in their mouth, it's gonna stop in a minute or two. It's like nothing I've ever experienced, and I would say to everyone who has any interest in this, do some research on it. It will change your life. It will change your life. I became a patient February of last year. I haven't taken an Advil since last February. I was taking 12 a day for neck and back pain. I mean, that just eats at your liver. We in the United States are okay putting chemicals in our bodies, poisoning ourselves, injecting ourselves with chemo and radiation where we're killing all the good cells. And yet we're druggies if we're using a plant out of the ground that's grown pretty much organically with no chemicals and was legal in this country until like 1957. And just to give you a little bit of awareness, the reason cannabis is illegal in this country is because during the Nixon era, he decided there were too many brown people coming in on the southern border, bringing this in. So much of what goes on in our society is racism. We don't have marijuana today because of racism. But we're gonna get past it, we're gonna keep advocating, we're gonna keep voting, we're gonna keep talking to congressmen and senators until we get to the other side of this mountain. I don't know where I am on time. Has anybody got, I got more time? So much, and while I'm on that subject, just for social justice, being that I'm a university, African-American men are 5 times more likely to be arrested for a marijuana crime than a white person. They have a joint, smoke a little, don't have it in their possession, end up going away for years. We have rapists that don't get as much time as African-American men do for a joint. We're pushing for legalization because first of all, it's the right thing to do, but we need these records expunged. We have kids that their lives have been destroyed. And guess what? If one of you gets arrested and goes into jail, anyone in this room, for a joint, or just, you know, even if you don't get jail time, if you're prosecuted for possession, I can't employ you. So this industry is looking for diversity, but the exact group of people I want to target are 5 times more likely to be arrested for using, and then I can't employ them. Like, I am on a hamster wheel all day long. So from a social justice perspective, I think especially in this educational forum that you understand, this is why we're here. We're here because it was a racist act. We're trying to get past it, but it's still a racist act that's happening. So I always, always beg everybody to vote, to speak out. We need to get these records expunged. We need to get these kids out of jail. We need to make sure nobody else goes to jail. And we need to change the law so that when people are coming out of jail, that we can employ them. It's something they obviously had a passion for to begin with. So that's a really important point I wanted to make. I'm not scripted, so sometimes I lose my train of thought. Going back to the program, there are 21 qualifying conditions in the medical marijuana program. Of those 21 qualifying conditions, one is chronic pain, so it covers a lot of things. Others I've spoken about are autism, epilepsy, cancer, and those types of things. If you believe you qualify for one of these conditions, you can go on the Department of Health website, the medical marijuana website, you can just Google it. All you have to do is register your driver's license information in there, and then go to see a recommending doctor. There's a list of doctors right on that website, and they can certify your condition if you bring records to show that you have PTSD or cancer or arthritis or really bad back pain. They'll certify you, and then it's $50 to get a card from the state of Pennsylvania. Once you get that card, then you can go to a dispensary. So if this conversation piques your interest, don't just go running to Scranton to go to a dispensary, because you will not be allowed in the door. You must have a medical marijuana card to enter a dispensary in the state of Pennsylvania. If you go there without a card, the security guard will give you instructions on how to get one, but you will not be allowed entry to the building. I can't even bring my own children in the building. It's illegal. So you have to have a federal background check, or you have to be a card holder to enter the business. What else can I share with you on this topic? I think that's all I have in my head, but if we're going to do questions, that'll be great, because I could speak for 3 hours. Fine.
All right, everybody, at this time in the program, we're going to be passing out some index cards that will allow you to ask some questions. I'm going to ask the WESS staff to assist me with this. And while we're passing out these cards, I'm going to ask Chris Visco if she would elaborate on what she perceives a recreational marijuana industry would look like in Pennsylvania.
So I firmly believe that we will have adult use in Pennsylvania passed by 2020, which would probably mean a late 2021 implementation. It's up in the air right now. We have one bill that's in the Senate right now and a few more that are being drafted on what that would look like. Right now, the medical program is governed by the Department of Health. There is some speculation that they would have the LCB regulate rec. So if it were all under the Department of Health, in theory, we could have both in the same building. However, if it's regulated by 2 different bodies, they would need to be in separate buildings. We understand from the governor that we should be grandfathered in, so if I have 3 medical, I should be able to have 3 recreational. This is all still up in the air until we get that bill passed. I can speak for Terravida that we are a strong advocate for home grow. The one problem with the way we are running these programs is that it's cost prohibitive. The federal government will not allow health insurance to cover it. We cannot take credit cards. I have no banking. I'm sitting with a mountain of cash and nowhere to go with it. So we need all of these laws changed, but because of the health care right now, people can't afford it. And those who can't afford it, they're not going to buy it. So why don't we, if we believe as owners, we have a responsibility, if we really believe in patient access, we would want them to be able to grow it. That being said, that will be in the first bill that comes up. There is no way that's getting passed in this state in the first round. So I would hope that we're legal 2021, and maybe by 2023 we have home grow and delivery and edibles. We have no edibles in Pennsylvania. That's the other thing I didn't mention. So we don't have edibles, and we didn't have flower or bud initially. So what we do carry are capsules are the only edibles. We have tincture, which is a sublingual. We have the flower, which you can vape but not smoke legally. And then we have concentrates and vape pens. That's what's available.
All right, everybody, we're just about at that point where we're going to start asking questions. We're going to ask the WESS staff to ask the questions that you would like to ask of Chris Visco. I do want to mention that this event tonight is part of Women's History Month, which is the month of March. You can visit the ESU calendar to find out more events that are part of Women's History Month. So now it's time for us to start asking Chris Visco some questions from the audience. I'd like to ask a WESS staff member to identify themselves with a question, and let's have our first question.
Okay, so it looks like our first question here is, what do you believe is the safest way to consume cannabis?
So vaporizing is disease, but you're not allowed to smoke it. Can everybody hear me? The question was, what is the safest way to use cannabis? Vaping it is the safest way to consume it as opposed to smoking it. However, that being said, an edible is completely safe. Tinctures are really what we give mostly to the children that we treat. It's very dosable. It comes with a syringe, and you can dose out whether you're getting 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligrams. But cannabis is safe, so I think all methods are safe. Okay.
All right, next question asks, how old were you the first time you smoked?
I would guess around 14.
Okay.
And my dad was a cop, so there's that.
Next question asks, are you suggesting that marijuana is a cure for cancer, since you stated that some of your patients were cancer-free after use of cannabis? If so, are there proven statistics that are showing so? I think it says.
So no, I would never say anything's a cure for anything, because first of all, it could cure someone's cancer, and it might do nothing for the person next to them. There's so much about this plant. There is nothing really, really proven other than the studies that have been done. Everything from my point of view is anecdotal. I have a patient come in who has a huge tumor. They come back in with a report that it's gone. The only thing that's changed is cannabis. I'm not doing clinical trials, and we have no clinical trials to speak of because it's federally illegal. However, if you're interested in seeing what cannabis can do with cancer, there are comprehensive studies that have been done by Johns Hopkins. Harvard just put out a study that showed the evidence that THC will destroy the molecules in those tumors and reduce the tumors. So I would never make the statement something cures. I would never make the statement this will. It could. It helps a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily help you. And we don't have enough science to know if that cancer is coming back in 15 years. So.
Hi, we got a question. Does marijuana help ADHD and medical marijuana, for medical marijuana purposes?
Does it? Absolutely. I've self-diagnosed myself with ADHD, as you can see while I was rambling through the speech. It's not a qualifying condition in and of itself, but I can tell you, having treated 25,000 unique patients, anxiety, ADHD, those are things that are very easy with cannabis. There's no guarantee anything's going to work for anybody, but I haven't seen it not work for anxiety or ADHD.
Okay. Our next question is, where do you buy your marijuana from?
Where do I buy it from?
Yes.
Myself. We have 25 growers that are licensed in the state of Pennsylvania. We're not allowed to cross state lines with product. Only 8 of those are actually growing and shipping right now. And I purchased from about 5 of those in the state of Pennsylvania.
With registering your license, would this affect background checks for teachers or other jobs?
Can you say the first part of that?
With registering your license, would this affect your background checks for teachers or other jobs?
Right, so you're not registering your license to speak of. The state is going to pull your information from your existing driver's license file, so you have to enter it exactly as your driver's license, but that information doesn't go anywhere beyond the Department of Health. So a lot of people are concerned that they can't have guns. If you have a gun, you can keep your gun. If you want to apply for another gun, that's where it becomes critical on how you choose to answer the questions. But no one has access to your medical marijuana information. You can't have your guns taken away from you. Employers, if you are not, if everyone but a federal employee is protected under Act 16, Section 2103, that states that no employer in the state of Pennsylvania can discriminate against someone with a card, they cannot fire someone with a card, they cannot financially hurt someone with a card, they can't lower their salary. That being said, no one knows the laws in this state. So there are employers who will do a drug test, see THC, and fire them. Fortunately, we have a pretty close-knit community. We have a lot of legislators that are working for the cannabis program, and we have been able to have those cases overturned where they either had to, pay that person a huge amount of money or they get their job back.
We have a question. Do you think medical marijuana is effective for weaning patients and addicts off opioids?
Absolutely, 100%. I'll tell you, there's a lot of skepticism about that. The people that come in to see us come in with pages of medication that they're on. Pages. It's mind-boggling. I had no idea the people that look just like me were so sick. I've had patients go from 6 Percocet down to 1 in a week and a half. I would never suggest that. But they are so adamant to get off this medicine that they do it as quickly as humanly possible. Some people, they're 6 months down the road, they're still taking 2 of those 6 or a half of the 1, but everybody's goal is to get off opioids, and our patients are getting off of opioids. I was on a benzo, I didn't even know what that was, that I got off in 4 days, that the doctor told me that I would have withdrawal symptoms after 2 weeks, and I didn't.
Do you take interns, and if so, how can someone get involved?
I do, but I can't take 100. So we do have interns that come in to do summer programs or during the year. We happen to be very close to Drexel University, so we use the Drexel Co-op program. Although they just feed people to me, I'm happy to take them from anywhere. Anyone under the age of 21 will not work in a dispensary or have access to the dispensary, but we have a ton to do in our corporate office where you would learn so much about cannabis. Our website's terravidahc.com, TerraVidahc.com.
And what credentials would someone need to work in a dispensary?
I hire personalities. I don't care, this is the wrong place to say this, but a college degree from my background is not as important as your own knowledge, your own drive, and your own life experience. So internships are great, whether it's in this or another industry that you're looking to have your career in. To me, people who do internships and have real life experience are the most important thing. So when I'm looking at a dispensary personnel, I want them to have cannabis experience, but we're in the state of Pennsylvania. Most people don't have, people think that they're growers because they have a plant in their closet, but that does not make them a grower. I hire people who are passionate about cannabis and compassionate. That's the most important thing. I'm treating sick people. I want to smile. If they're crying, I expect you to cry with them. I want my patient to feel like part of the family and loved when they leave the door. And if you can do that, I can train you to do everything else.
It seems you said before that health insurance does not cover this. Approximately how much does it cost for a patient per month?
So everyone is very different. I could have a child on a tincture that costs $75 that'll last them all month, or maybe 2 a month and you're at $158. I have other patients that'll come in and drop $1,000 a week, and I don't know where they're getting the money to do it, but they are. Nationally, the average medical marijuana patient spends $4,000 a year.
And once you're able to get financial backing, what steps did you take to grow, produce, and sell, and to actually start your business?
So I don't grow or produce right now. I certainly hope to, but we only sell. I received my license on June 28th. I secured the $7 million I needed to move forward. On September 7th of 2017, We opened our first dispensary in February, our second one in April, and our third in May. And it was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life.
Okay. So our next question here asks, what do you think of the paradox of people who need or use medical marijuana but work in an environment that bans it? How should we approach this?
Bans it in the workplace or bans you from using it?
It just says in an environment, a work environment that bans it.
So 99% of work environments, unless you're in the cannabis industry where people medicate all day long, will not let you use it at work.
Correct.
They can't ban you from using it. If you are employed by somebody currently, they can't tell you that you can't use it. You can't be impaired at work. You can't be impaired while driving. It's like any other substance, whether it's, an opioid or alcohol or any type of medication that could impair you. But otherwise, they cannot prevent you from using medical marijuana by law.
The next question asks, do you see any problems with police intimidation around your sites? I do at the place that I go to.
You see police intimidation?
Whose question is this? Or maybe you don't identify?
You're a patient? So you mean police intimidation like they hang out? So, yeah, there's dispensaries that have armed guards. It's ridiculous. To me, the security thing is really like when I go into the Empire State Building and they want my driver's license to make sure I'm not gonna blow up the building. Really, because I'm pretty sure the people at 9/11 had driver's license, right? So security outside of our building is ridiculous in and of itself. I don't know why that would be. In my Sellersville location, we have a parking lot that's attached to the firehouse. The building we're in had been empty for years. Habitually, the police sit there to do their paperwork because I had to tell them you have to move. Like most businesses would love to have a cop outside. I'm like, you need to get out of Dodge. I had patients call and see them out there like, are you being raided? And so no, I honestly believe in my community in the Southeast, which is a little bit different. Anything that happens like that is by accident. Like they're not looking to, we get along with everybody. I write big checks to everybody. They're not actually, I think they're mindless in the fact that the patients would be uneasy seeing them. So I'm really sorry that that's happening, but that's on the dispensary to make that go away. I know, write them a check and get rid of them though. That's what I would do. Just what I would do. Money talks, sorry. Am I being videotaped? Probably.
The next question asks, what are the next steps for your business? Future goals?
Future goals are to expand nationwide. We are applying in New Jersey. We're looking at Missouri. We're looking at Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Maryland, across the country. One of the things that's happening in the marijuana, and I just threw out a lot, so I'm gonna say the opposite of that right now, is everybody's growing way too quickly and taking their eye off the ball. The people that aren't open in Pennsylvania is because they've gone public nationally or they're applying in other states and they've missed this market. So I do want to expand. I don't want to, Pennsylvania is my home. This is so much what I believe in and I'm just so immersed in this community. But I believe we can help people other ways in the way that I don't see any other cannabis organization doing. So I want to expand. I just want to do it slowly.
All right, and on average, how many patients do you receive a week or a month since you stated that you have a high volume?
I see about 4,000 patients a week. Yeah, we've thinned things out for a while. In the first couple months of the program, we were on a 2-hour wait every day, which just sucks because you already are in pain and you're gonna buy something really expensive and now you gotta sit for 2 hours and wait for it to happen. But we've thinned that out. But yeah, we see about 4,000 patients a week.
Are there, is memory loss a concern with heavy dosage?
Is what?
Is memory loss a concern with heavy dosage?
I've never seen any study to prove or, yeah, I don't think so, but I don't know. I honestly can't answer that question. I can't remember my name half the time, so it could be, I don't know.
How do you feel about dab wax?
I think that concentrates are a really great medicine. Generally, the way they're made, if they're made well, is with liquid live plants, which is when you take the whole plant, and instead of curing it, you freeze it, and then you can take all of the resin off. I think When people focus on marijuana, they focus on THC and CBD, but the real hero in the plant are the terpenes. So if you're gonna get a sauce or a butter it's really terpy, that's your best medicine. So I actually think concentrates are one of the best medicines.
What are the requirements for working in a PA medical dispensary?
So you have to pass a federal, an FBI background check, which is where if you have any possession charges, where you'll be picked up at that point. A Pennsylvania state background check. I think that's it. Yeah, those two things.
And then follow up to that, do you have to live in Pennsylvania to work in a dispensary?
You do not, but you must be a Pennsylvania resident to be a card holder.
In prescribing, are there THC alone and CBD alone, or do you need the THC to work?
So it sounds like the person knows the answer to this question. So CBD is a natural cannabinoid that works with your endocannabinoid system. Hemp CBD has very little THC. Some people get great relief from it. Most people do not, because in order to activate that CBD so that it attaches to the receptors in your brain, you need some THC in it. So I would tell anybody who wants to invest in hemp, which is really expensive, that it's more the snake oil side of the cannabis.
What do your patients mostly use to smoke out of?
So it's illegal to smoke marijuana, so they use vaporizers. What they do in their own homes I couldn't attest to, but they use vaporizers for flower, and are the largest percentage of my business, 60% of my business are oil cartridges that are vaped. Sorry, I'm having a light issue.
How do you determine the dosage?
How do we determine the dosage? So we start very slow and low. We have two types of patients. One who comes in, they know what they're doing, they're ready to go. And the other, which is the majority really, of patients that have come in of all ages that have never used marijuana. Believe it or not, most of our patients have never used cannabis at all. So we start everyone very slow and low. Depending on what we're treating, if we can give them CBD, we'll start them with a CBD mix, because CBD counteracts the psychoeffect of the THC. So for a lot of people, especially if they're older, if their biggest concern is getting high, we like to start them with the CBD to see if it will work for them. It won't work for everybody, but at least we can get them through the process of using marijuana and realizing, oh wait, I feel fine. I feel completely normal. So as we introduce more and more THC, we start really low. We'll have them start on like 1 milligram and then work up to 2.5 milligrams. And what we have everybody do is kind of move up where you feel it's starting to help you, but stop short of where you feel uncomfortably impaired.
What is the difference between growing medical and recreational cannabis?
Nothing.
Not a question, but CBD has helped me with chronic nausea more than any other medication I've been prescribed. Do you know CBD laws?
Do I know CBD laws? So they just passed the Farm Bill, which has legalized hemp CBD throughout the country, which is great. Now they're going to take CBD and pharma's going to make a synthetic version of it. What I sell is only cannabis, and it's treated just like THC. I have a topical that if I slathered it all over all of you, no one would ever know. It feels like Jergens hand lotion, but it's great for pain. You need to have a card. It would technically be illegal for me to allow you to even try it, even though it doesn't even enter your bloodstream. So CBD, even though it has no psychoactive effect, it's a Schedule I narcotic.
What happens if you get denied for use of medical marijuana? What should you do?
So the person that would deny you would be the doctor. So that's an interesting question. So let me start by saying that in order to recommend medical marijuana in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to be a licensed medical marijuana doctor. What that means is you've decided to do it because you believe in it, and that you took a 4-hour online course that probably doesn't teach you what half this room knows about marijuana. But they're approved by the state because they haven't been they're not a pill mill or something like that. They get approved, they take the course. That's the doctor you have to see. One of the mistakes with people that don't end up in the program that we can't identify is that you'll go to your doctor and say, I want to use medical marijuana, and they will say no. and your doctor has nothing to do with this process. If you have cancer, if you have epilepsy, if you have arthritis, if you have back pain, and you've seen a doctor for it, you only need the medical marijuana doctor to certify you. So if anyone talks to a regular doctor who's against it, if they were for it, they'd be recommending. You're never gonna get the answer you want from a doctor who is not recommending. If you got turned down from another doctor, it would be because you don't have the documents to back up what you're saying that you have, or some doctors are a little bit more conservative in it. So when I say chronic pain, I know tons of doctors that'll give it to you for migraines, but you may find one that won't. So what I would say is to contact, if you have a problem, contact your nearest dispensary. They should be educated enough to walk you through the process and help you get the card.
I have 2 questions about whether or not medical marijuana can assist a specific kind of patient. The first is, do you think that cannabis can help diabetic patients?
I get that question all the time, and honestly, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not qualified to answer that question. I'm kind of like, if you ever saw my Big Fat Greek Wedding, I'm like the dad with the Windex. I believe THC helps everything. That doesn't make it true, though, so I don't know.
The second that I suppose would yield a similar response would be about kidney failure and whether it could possibly reverse the need for dialysis.
I'm really not sure. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, this person asks, did cannabis alone help patients, or did diet and nutrition and lifestyle changes also play a role in changes you've seen?
I think with anything in life, your diet is going to. So I can tell you, I've just lost 25 pounds while being on cannabis. Did the cannabis make me lose the weight? No. But I sleep, so I eat normally. Normally I wouldn't sleep, so it would be 10 o'clock at night, and I'd realize I hadn't eaten in 18 hours and be like, look for a Whopper. So that's how, and then you don't sleep, so you're tired, and then you're eating again at 3 in the morning. But cannabis has changed my life in that I'm not taking all the crap that I used to take for pain. I take 10 milligrams an hour before I want to go to bed, and I sleep all night. So I'm eating regularly, so the cannabis has helped my lifestyle and helped me eat healthier. But with anything, I mean, especially if we have a cancer patient that's really serious, they come in, they want to cure their cancer, they go on a heavy THC. The other thing we tell them is diet, diet, diet. Getting rid of the refined sugars and all of that and really being healthy. So it's a holistic approach, I would say, to everything.
This person asks you to describe the difference between THC and CBD in the context of medicinal and therapeutic uses.
Yeah, so THC and CBD are the 2 major compounds in the marijuana plant. THC is the one that has the psychoactive effect. CBD has no psychoactive effect. THC generally, for more people, will help with pain and other symptoms. CBD is a natural anti-inflammatory. It's got great properties in it for controlling seizures, which THC does not necessarily have, but you may need more THC in that CBD. They're both natural cannabinoids that work with the receptors in your brain. When you're using CBD, the THC activates it. It connects to the receptors in the brain, and it tells your body what you want it to do, essentially. So like in cancer, when you inject chemotherapy, what you're injecting into your body is killing all the cells, good, bad, ugly. Marijuana saying, when the CBD and THC connect to your receptors, it's saying, this is what we want you to do, this is bad, take care of it. So, but CBD, they both work together. It's called the entourage effect. Terpenes play a role, but essentially those 2 compounds, THC is psychoactive and CBD is not.
How do sales of cannabis benefit a community?
So I employ 100 people right now. We've created 100 high-paying jobs with great benefits. And when you employ people in a community and they start making money, the entire community, the more people have to make, the more people spend. And they're gonna spend it close to home. So we're creating jobs, we're bringing money into the community. We're also, bringing in money to our business that's local, which helps employ the people and pay them. But the other thing that we do that I think that all medical marijuana organizations have a responsibility to do is educate the community. So from my perspective, what we do for our community is we give money to everyone. I write checks to the police department, but I also sponsor the Police Athletic League and the fire department, the NCAA, every cause that you can possibly imagine. The census is going to be digital. I'm glad I have this platform. The census is going to be digital in a couple of years. What that means is that Disadvantaged communities and older people will not have the ability to be counted. So right now we're working with communities. I want to build community centers for young people and low-income people and older people to get communication or computer skills so they can go and be counted. So that's not something you would expect from us, but that's what we're doing. I can't speak for what everybody else is doing, but we believe in the community and building that up.
How much intake is too much intake?
No one's ever died of cannabis.
And what do you believe is the safest way to consume cannabis?
I think it's all safe. I mean, it depends on who you are. If you have upper respiratory problems, you shouldn't be smoking or vaping probably. But short of that, you know, the least health beneficial way is to smoke it. Otherwise, it's all safe.
So this person asks, they have chronic arthritis, anxiety, and depression, and they're prescribed Xanax and Ultrium right now. Can they get off of these and hop on medical marijuana instead?
I mean, that's the goal. Everybody's different. And I said, I'll never say this can. It may. It possibly will. Yeah, I mean, we have people getting off medication every single day. I'm one of those people. You're going to use it differently. The anxiety you're going to use differently than you would necessarily the arthritis. But absolutely, that's a goal for all of our patients and one that they generally achieve.
So in Canada, you can find many cannabis companies on the U.S. stock exchange. Once it is recreational, does your company plan to be on the stock exchange?
So there are no actual medical marijuana companies on the U.S. stock exchange. They're really all on the Canadian stock exchange. The ones that are on the U.S. stock exchange are not growers or retailers. They own a lot of the ancillary businesses that go on with it. So as a dispensary owner, I could not go public on the U.S. stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange. They're all doing what are reverse public offerings. That's like an IPO, but it's the way they handle it in Canada. Everybody is for sale. Everybody in this country is for sale. All the big guys are trying to roll everybody up. I love what I do. I'm going to stick with what I do. If we ever went that direction, it would be a raise where I would remain in control. And the only reason for me to do that would not to be put money in the bank, but to give me the ability to expand, because it's very expensive. If I want to grow right now, I can get one. We're looking at about $40 million. So that for me personally, that's the only reason I would ever consider rolling up. But everybody's going to roll up, and everybody's going to be part of a public company.
Our Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor is currently touring counties in Pennsylvania to hear recreational marijuana's pros and cons. Is there anything that might sway his opinion to not pass marijuana recreationally?
John Fetterman is he was the mayor of Broward County. All he wanted were dispensaries and grows there. He is 100% on board to legalize it. So is Tom Wolf, in my opinion. I think this is all, you know, smoke and mirrors, but good for the industry. I think that going out and educating and hearing what people say in a public forum, he's picking counties where it's not as popular, where we can't get any Republicans to support our bills, and he's holding an open forum, which is great because people don't know what my patients look like. So you're in a county where nobody believes in it, and you've got, you know, all of our veterans with PTSD that have, you know, war injuries, and 85-year-old women that have cancer or MS or whatever the case may be. These are the faces of cannabis. So he's providing an opportunity for all the naysayers to kind of look and be like, oh, it's not a 20-year-old stoner. You know, so it's amazing what he's doing.
For healthcare providers like nurses who have an approved disease like chronic pain, do you think it would be appropriate for them because they're caring for others? So like prescribing. Yes. Okay.
Yes. We have police officers who are patients. I have teachers that are patients. I've got 18-month-old kids that you can dose medical marijuana appropriately, the same way you would with an Advil or any prescription medication. You do not have to get high.
How often do you consume marijuana?
Twice in the last hour. They think I'm kidding. Throughout the day, I'll take like 2.5 milligrams every couple of hours because I get severe neck pain.
Do you think healthcare workers will ever be allowed to use medical marijuana for themselves?
They are allowed in the state of Pennsylvania. As long as they're not a federal employee, they are allowed.
Do you have any lupus patients?
Yes, we do, actually.
Do you in your business, do you in your dispensaries have the bud?
The bud?
Yes.
We have the bud, and it's beautiful.
Do you receive death threats occasionally? If so, do you think it's because you're a woman in the pot
yet.
industry or both?
No, I haven't. I mean, I will tell you in complete transparency, I am not a very popular person in the state of Pennsylvania within my industry, but I'm working on that. We've created an environment where we really care about people and we take care of patients. So many people, and I'm a retailer, I'm a marketing person, I understand what it takes to make somebody feel good about themselves. Pretty much everybody, and I'm not putting down the rest of the industry, and I believe everybody, now that they're in it, loves these patients. You really would have to be a horrific human being not to feel what goes on in these dispensaries every day. But so many people, and the reason they're not doing as well as us, I'm not that smart. It's because they thought, I will build it and they will come. And they built a building and they stuck weed in it and they opened the door and they expected lines. And there's a lot more to this than that. You can get away with that in Colorado in an adult use market. But when you have sick people, you need to take care of them. So a lot of people haven't figured out why I'm successful and just hate me for being so. But no one's threatened to kill me yet that I'm aware of.
This next question asks whether you think that we'll ever advance to the point that clinicians or therapists could dole out medical marijuana cards in addition to medical professionals.
I would say it won't happen in this state. Again, it's governed by the Department of Health. They won't, in my stores, I have to have a pharmacist or a nurse practitioner on site to consult with patients. I can't even have an RN. So I just don't, we're a very conservative state. I don't see it happening.
What is the average price of an ounce at a medical dispensary?
So we're not allowed to sell ounces. We can only sell grams and eighths.
Shame.
The price of an eighth goes anywhere from $35 to $65 for an eighth, which is high. It's high. So on the low end, we're at like $240 an ounce, I guess. I can't sell it like that, but that's where we'd be.
All right, so this is the final question. Do you know what steps need to be taken to become a grower?
You can't become a grower in the state of Pennsylvania. All the licenses have been given out. If you want to be a grower in another state, the rules change, but as a general overview, you want to go out and recruit people that already exist in this space. You want to have, if you're going into a medical market, you need to have a lead medical professional. You need to have community people. You need to have diversity. You need to have women. It would be nice to have a little age on there as well. You want to have a head grower. So you want to essentially assemble a team of professionals that are going to take you from point A to point B. You need to apply probably, I think in the state of Pennsylvania, you had to show that you had $2 million liquid. It was another 200 and some thousand to apply. And in theory, just to get to the application process, you need a couple million. So you're talking about $5 million just to apply, and you could lose it all. Yeah.
We're just about at that portion of the program where we're going to do a meet and greet with the Queen of Cannabis, Chris Visco. But Chris, one final question for you from me. We're at a university, East Stroudsburg University, that has a niche in the area of entrepreneurship. Probably the most commonly associated word or sign, if you're looking at it from a communication standpoint, is the word risk. That is probably the word that most people associate with entrepreneurship. Can you talk about your view of risk-taking and what you have done with Terravida Holistic Centers?
So there's two types of people, those that are not afraid of risk and those are adverse to risk. And I think from so many of my friends and family have watched me go through this, and the whole time they were so worried about me, so worried about me. I took a risk. Honestly, I could have lost everything because we started this in 2016 when I had a marketing firm, and to be able to go through this process, I couldn't take any more new clients. And I was a very small business. I only had 2 employees. And then I was a political strategist at the same time. And so we get into the 2017 election where, everybody in the country is, upset. And that's the year of the candidates. I could have had 5 candidates and I couldn't take any on because if I won, I would have had to dump them. So my income was going way, way down. My debt was going through the roof. And if we didn't win, I don't know where I'd be right now. I have 2 kids in very expensive colleges. But we did win. And so what I had to do was, one of my rules in life is I never say I'm going to do something unless I really believe I could do it, and I just really believed I could do it. So when you're looking at risk, you want to do your due diligence and understand what are my real odds in this. Now, there were 500 applications and only 20 winners, so the odds weren't great. But I looked at what the competition looked like, and like I said, they were out of state. None of them had retail experience or the ability to operate or the community impact plan I had or the diversity that we had. So I took a risk, but it was a pretty educated risk that I was going to be okay. The big risk came from the people that put money on me on a roulette wheel, that if I lost, because it was my time and my future was at jeopardy, but they were putting their 400 grand went on a roulette wheel, and if I didn't win, it was all gone. And so it's really about being able to market yourself and sell yourself to somebody to say, here's why you should take this risk on me. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and here's why, and here's how I'm going to do it. So business plans, due diligence. I didn't just say I'm going to do this and jumped and borrowed $1 million from my mom and went for it. I spent 2 years in this process. So I'm all about taking risk. I think that anything worth having, you have to fight for. But it needs to be an educated risk and just know what you're going into. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much again to Chris Visco, the Queen of Cannabis. Now it's that time. If you would like to meet and greet Chris, she will be at this red table at the front. If you want her to sign something for you, you're welcome to do that as well. Thank you very much for coming.